I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast. Set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
All right, we're on. D-Lo, thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
The Texas Swing Queen. I love it.
You like it?
I freaking love it. I tell you what, how about the winter you're having? I'm telling you, lighten them up. Got them at Fort Worth, San Antonio, and not only that, set 3 arena records. One at Fort Worth that still holds. One you only got to hold for a little bit over there at San Antonio. But that one you had at Austin was rank. That was so rank.
I think, going to these Texas rodeos, like, I know last year I placed 5th at Fort Worth, and I was like 2 or 2-3. And man, I was kind of bummed out going home. I was like, man, why did I back off? Like, those are things that I shouldn't have backed off at. And I'm going to say last year in September, I went over to Larry D's house, and her brother, Tom, he was there. And I was hanging out, roping a dummy, and he come over and he kind of talked to me a little bit, and he was telling me a story about Trevor Brazil. And he was like, man, when I was rodeoing with Trevor, he was like, Trevor would never back off. And, he told me this story that Trevor ran at the barrier at Guyman, broke out and whatnot, and didn't win. And then he asked him, why'd you do that? And he's like, because I want to win. And he was like, so I regret, taking an extra swing, and taking an extra swing and just trying to place. He's like, Trevor always wanted to go there and win. So, last year I remembered, man, I won 5th, didn't win any money. This year I'm not backing down. I'm going to have that mentality. When he told me that story, I mean, it lit up, like it put a fire in me. And that's when I was like, you know what? I guess I'm not going to go down winning 2nd. I want to go down winning 1st. And I think it just, started my year off pretty good.
Well, I tell you what, one of the things that I thought that I seen was at the NFR last year. Your guys' I guess they call it the National Finals Breakaway Rodeo. What's the NFBR? They're in the South Point. And you lit them up.
Yeah.
And you and Sarah were sparring back and forth pretty dang strong. But I thought it was really cool. I had Jordan Fabrizio send me the conversation you guys had in the arena after one of your round wins, because you were lighting them up. And the question was, Jordan Joe asked, with breakaway growing so fast and getting so tough, where do you see it going from here? And this was your response. And in my opinion, when you said Thomas and Mack, and it was a good crowd. It was probably half full, but it was electric.
Yeah.
And you and Sarah were lighting them up in there. And it had that feel in that vibe in that arena. It was infectious. For only half selling out, and it sounded loud in there for what the show you guys were putting on. And when you said Thomas and Mack, it was shortly after that I started seeing that hashtag ad breakaway all over Facebook. I started seeing signs at the NFR. I think there was a lot too when you said that sparked a lot of excitement on breakaway.
Yeah, I mean, that's one, dream we all want it to be. And I think that, with breakaway getting so big and time's getting so faster, like people are loving it. And that's where we want it to be, is the Thomas and Mack. And, it's exciting to be on this journey and to help promote the breakaway roping. And I hope, we get there one day, and, one day I'll be sitting up there being, I helped it get here, just to see that'd be amazing.
Yeah, it was cool. It was, man, you lit them up in there. It was fun to watch. But let's watch these light ups you've been doing here recently. Let's go back to Fort Worth. Let's watch this 1-6 run arena record at Fort Worth. Look, no slack. Loved it. Loved it. I loved it. So here comes the slow-mo. Look how good of a start, and fire it off. Horse lets off, lets you put the cap, and then boom, pop.
And she was under 2 seconds 20 different times. You just witnessed.
That was awesome. That was awesome. How fun was that?
I think it was so much fun because, when I actually won the rodeo, I looked up there, I remember a few years ago, I didn't compete at the first one ever, but I sat way up there and I watched the breakaway rope and I was like, man, I need to find me a breakaway horse. I want to be in that arena. And then, to come down and, to accomplish that goal and to look up and, believe man, I come a long way. So, it was very touching for me to, get that win and to remember where I was sitting a few years ago. So
that groundedness.
Yeah, that's
really cool.
It's amazing, to just be a part of it and to see where it's going.
So this horse you've been killing it on. What's this horse's name?
Her name is Shabiz, and got her from Shelby Medjid a few years ago, I think in 2020. And she's 9 years old now. Got her when she was 6, I believe. And she just, at first we didn't get along, but then, the more we got to...
Jackie said you had some good films of maybe when the first few times you rode her.
I did. I got some good films of her. We were laughing about it a few months ago. Just healing, trying to get her to back off. She didn't want to whoa, and I was sitting there whoa in my videos, and they were laughing at me because, just from her to go to that, and then boom, she's actually the real Texas swing queen. I'm along
fit
for the ride.
Y'all fit.
Yeah.
Y'all fit. It looks good. Now let's go to Austin. This is dirty rank. Oh my gosh. Look how far this is. Let's go right to here. I watched this live and I about fell out of my chair. Feet at the line, fling it. And I'm telling you, there was no slack. You missed your slack, but you can't really say that because there was no slack.
Yeah.
The rope literally just went to the very end and just dropped.
Yeah.
That was, oh my gosh, 1.5.
Yeah.
1.5 at Austin. That was so rank.
Yeah. I was, sitting there the day before and, I should have took one more swing and maybe just caught it, beat me to the right. And, I kind of watch my videos and I go back and I'll sit there and watch every little thing, where my angles are, what could I do to make the sloop go on? And I think when they step left a little bit like that and they're a little stronger, it's easier for me to kind of keep roping to my right of me. So when I seen the calf that I had and it was JJ's and JJ kind of took an extra swing, man, I thought to myself, if I can just hit the barrier just right, it's either gonna fade a little left because it won't see me come in a little bit, or it's gonna stay straight. So as soon as I nodded and I took them 2 swings and I kind of seen it drift, I just I let everything go and I had that big loop. And I try not to feed my loops when we're backing up into the box to be 1.6. I want the loop as big as it can be, and then for me to just go out there and sling it instead of feeding it because it takes time to feed your rope. So
that was a fling.
Yeah.
Oh, Shabiz right there. When they let off, she didn't short you, but she lets off just enough where it looks like you can place it right there. And then when it went on, it just popped. It's so dirty fast.
Yeah.
But how long is your rope? Because Jackie told me hers was 22 foot and a half. What is yours measured at?
24 feet and 7 inches.
That had to be one of the reasons why you were 1.5, because I don't think a 22 and a half foot rope was going to make it to that shot.
Right. It's funny. I think at first, when I first came here, I had a short rope and I was just trying to make sure I caught. And then the more it's growing, it's like, man, how am I going to get faster? Because I know when I first started breakaway roping, I told my dad, I was like, I'm not fast enough. Like, this breakaway roping is too fast for me. And that's the only reason why I didn't want to breakaway rope, is because, you know, it was so fast. And then, like, the more I got invested into it, like finding the right horse, and my other horse that I first bought, he was fast. So
And that was that Mo?
yes, Little Mo. And he was fast, and I could just go up and rope on him, and he was good. And then, you know, when I got Shabiz, like, it was a total opposite, you know, different style. Like, she was so different than him. And
She looks flat and easy to send it on.
yeah, and she would run, you know, low-headed, and that's the different type of horses that are out here, you know, in the reining world, and that's where she came from. So, you know, she had that low-headed stuff, and, you know, it took me a little while to adjust to that. And, you know, after a while, we got her, you know, figured out, and it started to work more and more. And then, like, now it's kind of crazy. I was telling Sarah the other night when I was 1.5, I said, I'll be honest, like, I went and nodded. Like, I kind of just sent her to go, and I nodded, and I didn't know if I was getting out or not, but I was going to reach for it, make it go on. And she just laughed. She's like, you're the only person that can drop your horse, pick up, and throw. And
There's some timing to it.
Yeah. And I think the timing of it is, I never knew timing until I started breakaway roping. Like, it never clicked in my head until I started to figure it out. Like, I think when I first started coming to Texas, I remember the first time I ever came over here, and Jackie was talking about it, and I was just sitting there, you know, amazed about, you know, watching her practice, and I didn't want to ask her what timing was. And then later on, like, I'm thinking about what she said. I'm like, man, that's what the timing is. That's what they're talking about, using the horse's timing. So then that's when I really, like, started to work with Shabiz. Like, okay, if I can find the timing, like, that's all I could think of in my head with her is timing.
Because your timing this winter looked so much like how we head at the NFR.
Yeah.
Because the start's pretty close the same. You know, there's guys like a Squeeza who'll get their rope off in the back of the box, able to feed at the middle of the box, and able to throw at the line.
Yeah.
And then, like, what I was better at was when I would nod, and then I'd get my swing going from the back of the box, and then feed at the front of the line, and then take my shot, is what you have to a T.
Yeah.
And there was that timing, because there was guys that could start it before they would swing. Then there was guys that started it with their horse and able to feed at the middle and then throw, and then because that's what we were trying to find, like, in the head and side, was where can we throw the fastest where we don't get flagged out, but where we don't want to take too long and then get kind of in the middle of the arena where we don't have enough room.
Yeah.
So you're trying to find that timing, because when you were able to find the corner of the box, or, you know, when you were able to rope at the NFR and then get to the corner, that left corner, you had the most room.
Yeah.
And so the further you went, especially if that's steer step, the less room you had. And so there was so much timing that was dissected for the NFR that in the winter rodeos, when it's 3 foot under, you look like you've got it. You've got that timing. It looks awesome.
Yeah. And I think watching the headers, you know, when I, you know, watch Dustin, watch Clay Smith, you know, watch all the guys that are, you know, phenomenal with horsepower. And that's one thing that I like, is, like, you know, learning about horsepower, figuring out how a horse can really help you, but also remembering, like, you can use your rope. And that's one thing that I was watching this winter, is when I was at the NFR, you know, watching how them guys would nod, like, swing and nod, you know, and that's when I was like, man, I could do that. I remember telling my family at home, like, we were watching NFR, I went home one night and I was like, man, if I can master that right there, I think I can be fast. Mm-hmm. So, you know, me and my family, we talk about it when we watch rodeos. We'll sit there and, you know, figure out ways that seeing that can help me over here. So that's one thing that I really enjoy about being with my family is, you know, we'll break down the different styles of what we see. So.
And another thing that relates a lot to heading is the fact that headers have roping gloves, and so do you.
Yeah.
So in the breakaway, what's the incentive with the glove? Is it something, because I remember reading about it, so I've done some intel on you, and so you team rope first.
Yep.
Is it something that was a feel that you had early, and you just learned to always have the glove, or what's up with the glove?
I think the glove kind of, like, I remember when I first came to Texas, And, breakaway roping, like, no one wears a glove. And the first year I came here, I was embarrassed to wear a glove because, it's just not a breakaway thing. And I was total on team roper. And then when I got here, I was like, I'm not going to use a glove. I'm going to figure it out how to fill my rope out. And then the following year I come back, 2 years coming to Texas. I said, man, screw it. This year I'm going to use a glove. I don't care. So I started using a glove, and then like I would have to carry baby powder around, the first year. And I was like, man, this isn't my style, but oh well, just try it out. So I did, and it didn't work. So I went back to the glove. And then, once I put that glove on, it's just like a feeling like, man, this is my atmosphere right here. Just
Got your feel back.
Yeah.
That you're familiar with.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Cause I remember I think if you're a team roper so long, it was hard for me to even go try ropes. I remember going to the rope shop and I'd just go to swinging them ropes and I couldn't feel it until I would have my glove.
Yeah.
Cause I'm so used to there's a certain feel when you have that glove that you don't feel without one.
Yeah. And I mean,
do you know how many people now are going to be wearing gloves?
I see it a lot.
I'm surprised Jackie didn't crack one out the other day.
It was so funny the other night. She sent me a video of her lining one. And she was like,
because she borrowed your rope in Houston, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, did you borrow a glove too? Because that rope comes with the D-Lo glove.
Yeah, that's so funny. She went and roped it, and the calf ran through her loop, and she's like, "Man, I should have wore a glove." I said, "Nice try."
Yeah,
it was so funny.
I love it. You two have a good relationship. She was telling me about the red dot.
Oh yeah, the red dot. I was cracking up about that. She been giving me crap, ever since I've been number one, telling me, "I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you." And man, at Houston, I went up to her before, I can't remember what round it was. I think it was the semifinals. And I sat down next to her in the little player, and she goes, I kind of added up some numbers. And I'm like, you did? And she goes, yeah. She goes, if I win Houston, I'm going to be like 20-something plus ahead of you. I'm like, I just kind of like look at her like, man, you're wishing. And then all of a sudden, like, she comes out and wins Houston with my rope. And I'm like, damn. She wasn't playing. And so, just laughing and joking with each other like that. I was cracking up about it. And she sent me the standings, and we were texting, and I said, you see that red dot on you? And she goes, I can't remember what her response was. I said, that's me coming for you.
Even for you ass.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It.
So it's funny, just to tease each other and laugh like that. It's hilarious.
It's fun.
Have that.
Have you ever watched The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, that documentary on Michael Jordan?
Yes, I have.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
Like the mentality that guy had, where he almost looked at things to fuel him.
Yeah.
And Jackie has that.
Yep.
Because the other day when we were because I've been very bitter here lately because I'm probably the biggest Kid Rock fan in the whole wide world.
Yeah.
And when Kid Rock came out with his rodeo in May, and I'd already had a clinic lined out, and I'm like, you're going to try to tell me Kid Rock's going to have a rodeo in my backyard, Fort Worth, and I can't go. Like I'm like, and then Jackie's like, I'm going. I'm like, because I'm going to get qualified, and I'm going to do this and that and whatever. And I'm like, figures.
Yeah.
Taking the back seat, you know what I'm saying? Like, 'cause I mean, that's my guy.
Yeah.
Like, Kid Rock's my boy.
Yeah.
And she called the other day. She goes, I didn't get picked to go to the Kid Rock rodeo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And she's like, I said, boy, because I know her.
Yeah.
I know how she is.
Yep.
And I said, boy, they better watch their ass at Houston.
Yeah. And sure enough.
And
look at that.
sure enough, she's like, oh, you want to pick me? All right.
All right. Here we go.
And it is, because I remember when we were sitting in there in the truck one day, and she's like, look, if I win Houston, I'd be 20,000 ahead of D-Lo.
Yeah.
Because like she had her red dot on you too.
Yeah, she did.
The winners are always looking up.
Yeah.
They're always looking up. I love it.
And that's just, the mentality like every good competitor has. And it's
Totally agree.
fun to have, someone who is going to push you to do better. And right now I told her, like, I think I remember last year, I did have a good California run last year. I think I won like over 18,000 out there. I told her, I said, hey, I used to be the California queen, so you better watch out. I said, I'm coming.
Love it.
So, just having that good positive aspect of where we're going next, California, and, it'll be good, whether we're winning or losing, we're having a good time doing it.
One things I noticed too was with Shabiz, you have that 3-foot start down, that be fast setup. But what I also noticed too is when you got to Houston, you also had another horse, and that horse looked like it could run.
Yeah.
To me, that looked like wisdom, to where you have, because it's hard out here to have one horse, because usually one horse fits one setup. It's a freak to have a horse that fits all setups.
Yeah.
So a guy has to be strategic on how he's planned out there. It looks like now you've got also one, it looks like, for when they stretch out as well, like when they stretch the barrier out as well.
Yeah.
Is that what that horse is?
Yeah, he was a head horse when I first bought him and made him a breakaway horse now. And last year I cracked him out in August, and he has a lot more run. And we've worked with him a bunch, but I think he's still green right now. But he's good enough to give me confidence to go.
Now, what's that horse's name?
His name is Boomer. Yep.
Boomer.
Yep, he's 10 years old. I got him from the Wangert Ranch in Gilbert, and that's the same guy I bought Little Mo from. So, just he's a good guy that always has good horses and, tries to build my team. So it's good.
Is Boomer, you feel like, going to be getting a call when you go out west?
Yeah, he'll
go the California run.
Yep, either him or another one that I got at home that is kind of resting, but that I rode over the weekend when I went home.
Now, is Shabia's going to go out there, or is she going to get a little time off?
I think she's going to stay home. I did good on her last year out there, but I think I'm just going to save her for May. We're coming back here for May for all the big rodeos out here, and then Kid Rock's on the line, and, the women's deal's on the line. So
some big paydays is going to fit her good then, huh?
Yep. So we'll have her, stay home and kind of keep exercising her and get her ready for coming back.
That is good, because I think a lot of guys that had horses last a long time, they knew where their horses' strengths were. They knew when they were able to give them time off. So in that way, when it was their time, they're fresh, they're feeling good, they're not sore, they're not dreading it.
Yeah.
That's a very strategic move. And then come Reno,
you
better have all of them ready to roll.
Yeah.
It's adult ladies only after that.
Yeah.
It's on.
I think just her, I rode her all last year kind of. And she handles it really well, but I think there's times where she kind of gets, I think last year at the fourth quarter, she was like, man, I want to go home. And I felt bad for taking her all the way to Sioux Falls, and we had a good August. It was a phenomenal August month for us last year. And then to haul her all the way to Sioux Falls, I kind of felt bad, but made it work.
And then you had good momentum going the NFR.
Yeah.
It looked good there. So tell me, how did you get this passion? Where did this all come from? What you were from up there in White Cone, correct, on the reservation, Navajo Nation. So what was childhood like? Who taught you how to rope? Where did this passion for roping come from?
I think, growing up, my dad, he started roping late because he went to the Air Force and didn't get out until he was like 29 or 28, and he came home and he started to team rope a lot more with his brothers. And then we didn't have an arena where he lives, his mom and dad's place. And he started building an arena. And then all of a sudden, like all my uncles and, cousins, they all got into it. And, he had a horse around after the Air Force, like all the time. And then he ended up meeting my mom. We moved to a small town in Taylor. And then when we were in Taylor, like they had nothing but bell racings all the time. So when I was growing up in team pinning, he did a lot of team pinning. It was kind of funny. It was his thing. Like
it is fun.
He would,
I'm not gonna lie.
He would go on weekends and team pin.
Love team pin.
And that was his thing, And
nothing better just run in there and that deal, just throw your arm in the air.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, and he had that team roping mentality, drinking beer and team pinning.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of team pinning buckles. It was funny.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, then we would hang out all those ropings and stuff like that, and he would put me on a horse and let me ride horses. And then as I got older, my cousins, they started to go to little Jim Cannon rodeos around where we're from, and he wouldn't put me in any roping events. He'd put me in the bell race and all the events with just using a horse.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, I started to carry around a rope, play with it, and he kind of noticed it, like me playing around with the rope, but he never pushed me to rope. Like he wanted me to be a good rider first. So when I was growing up, I didn't rope at all, like until about 9 to 10 years old. About then I started to rope more, and he would be like, all right, let's get you in I think my first roping event was that donkey where he would rope the donkey and just pull it for me. And it's like a kid's, like one of the events for the kids, but you rope a donkey. And that was my first event. I started on a donkey, at the junior rodeos and stuff. And that was it. And I think, just growing up, riding horses first and then slowly getting into roping. And I didn't start roping until we moved back to the reservation. I started swinging a rope more because my Nolly lady, which is my dad's mom, she had a bunch of sheep, and she would always need help. Go chase this sheep, go rope this sheep. So I would have a blast. Carrying that rope around, roping sheep for her, and then as I got older, junior high, they would put on goat ropings on the reservation, and that's all there was out there, like goat ropings every Friday, Saturday nights, Sundays too sometimes. And I went because it kept me out of trouble, kept me over there handling a rope. And my dad didn't really like it at first because I was so addicted. And then after a while, he was like, go ahead, go goat roping. He'd give me $20 to go try and win money. So,
Or a lot of us got money to go play video games. You got money to go enter. So perfect. Keep you moving.
So that's when, that's kind of when I started to really fall in love with it. And then the more I kind of got better, like for a minute there when I was about a freshman, he would be like, you really need to if you want to rope, you got to be better than what you are right now, because it's not going to fly. Like there's so many good ropers out there. And he's like, I think I'm good, but I know I didn't take it serious enough to be phenomenal. And he was like, and if you want to be phenomenal, we need to get serious about it. So then.
How old were you at that?
I was probably like 14, about 13, 14. And so he got cancer when I was in like 7th grade. So 7th and 8th grade, he didn't really, bother me. But my uncles, they were roping still. So my uncles and them, they would, team rope a lot. And one of my uncles, he'd be like, you know what? We need headers. He's like, you need a head. I'm like, all right. So he put me on the best head horse, all of them. And I'd start sticking for the boys, and I was heading for them. And one day my dad came home from his, chemo, and he gets off right there at the arena. They drop him off, and he's standing there, and he's like, well, you're doing pretty good for yourself. And then that's when he had that talk saying, if you want to be better, we need to get more serious about it. But instead of putting me on the head side, the next day he went and got a dummy from his friend, and he's a welder, and he built this dummy that was like huge, had so much space in between it. And he's like, we need a better healer here. I was like, okay. So he started me, we'd rope the dummy and I'd heal the dummy, and learned about how to handle my rope, how to keep it open with my pinky, and, stuff like that. And then my other uncle's a header, and he would always say, drop your thumb. So I was getting to both sides of it with my dad and my uncle.
Between the head and the healing?
Yep. And just, learning how to handle a rope. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because my little sister don't love to rope, don't do nothing. She'll ride horses, but she won't rope. And like, she can handle a rope. She was young. She'd handle a rope. But I can't even do that. I can't do circles with it. All I know how to do is.
So she could learn the trick rope and just handle that rope. And
yeah.
You never learned the trick rope?
Nope, never.
Just be able to put it around the neck, put it around the feet, and put it around the horns.
Yep, that's it. That's all I learned.
My dad always told me tricks for kids.
Yeah.
He said, learn how to put that rope around the horns. He said you win a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you went that route, which is great.
Yeah. And I mean, it just started from there. Like my cousins, they all rope too. And after a while, I started to get better, and my dad started, buying horses. He worked for a farm guy in Holbrook. His name was Mike Rehead, and he had a bunch of horses, and my dad was working for horses, training horses for him, baling hay, and then he just started bringing in horses, and I just started riding them, and he wouldn't let me rope on them, but until he was ready to rope, like, all right, I'm going to try this horse, and he would get on it, but he'd make me exercise him. And he was still roping when he had cancer. Like, there were some days where he had good days and bad days. And those good days, he'd be out there trying to help, me and my cousins get better. And that's kind of how, I got started is, just being around my family and having them to talk crap to each other, and get better at it. they gave me a hard time. I mean, growing up, they honestly gave me the hardest time because I came from, snowflake, like I grew up there from like kindergarten to 6th grade. And then when I went to 7th to high school, like, it was like I was older. And so I was gone, didn't meet my cousins until way older. Mm-hmm. And then when we finally started to get to know each other, like they give me crap all the time about being away from the reservation and like living on that side of town. But
so when you lived up in Snowflake, you went to a different type of school than when you came back to the reservation.
Well, it wasn't a different type of school. It was all in the same district, but just different learning aspects. You learn the Mormon way and, how you grow up, with that culture over there. And then you get back to the reservation, you'll learn everything about your own culture and where you come from. So that was just kind of how, they had that mentality of being, I'm going to say raw, and like just a raw truth. Like that's all they fed to me when I was growing up. And boys are kind of mean, especially when you handle a rope and you know how to rope, they get pissed off sometimes. So that's kind of how I grew up, just being around them. And
that's fascinating. Learn two different type of cultures, and then back to Navajo traditions and where you're coming from. What differences was it from basically the first school that you went to when you were able to go back to the reservation and learn more about your own culture? What do you feel like were some of the differences you felt like?
Some of the differences of like growing up in Snowflake was, you could have anything you want right there in town. Like everything's kind of just brought to you. Like, you learn, like the Mormons, they come over and come to your house and teach you church right there in your house. And then, when you go to the reservation, you got to go out and find it. Like you got to go drive to a Mormon church. You got to go drive to a store. You got to go, like, those are the difference of, I think, growing up there and then coming back to the reservation made me grateful for where I came from, having all the opportunity right there. And then when you go back to the reservation, there's not a lot of opportunity there. So I think just, learning to be thankful for what you have and, just using what you have right there. And then going back to the reservation, doing the same thing, but in a more positive way, because you learned how to live over here with things, but then you go back to a different world and you learn how to just live with what you have.
I think that's very interesting to learn two different things, and to me it's made you stronger.
Yeah,
because of it.
Yeah, it's made me, my belief. I believe it's like made me believe I belong where I'm at, and just to have that grit to keep pushing yourself more and more. Like every day, you gotta have the passion to love what you do, and I think believing in myself. I have this little saying called "Believe That," and those are those little things that I can put all into one and make me believe that this is where I belong.
I've seen that on your social media. Believe that. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's funny. That right there like has helped me the past 3 years because, well, maybe about 2.5, because I'd go home, come to Texas. I'd be away from my family. I feel sad and, I got my butt kicked, losing all my money to everyone here. And then I'd go home and I'd be like, man, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this my calling? Like, what am I doing? Like, I hate losing. And those are the things that when I get home, talk to my cousins and they're like, man, you got it. Like and that's what I love about my family is when I go home, they're like, you can do it. Like, you're made for this. Like, your dad, he basically raised you to be who you are. And it's crazy because, like, other people can see it, but you got to see it, and that's the one thing that my cousins always told me is like, you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe that. And one time my cousin, he said that. I'm like, man, that's a good saying. His name is Tyler, and he's one of my best cousins that we grew up together, graduated together, and have this connection. And so every time I go home, he comes over and ropes with me, and he works, a 8 to 5 job. So we live two different lives, but like I have the opportunity. So, you know, when he comes over and roasts me, I'm so thankful that he can, because he's thankful where he's at, and it's a different mentality. You know, he just don't have the opportunity that I have. So when I go home, it's kind of fun to, you know, vibe off of him, because he makes me feel like, okay, I need to believe, I need to be grateful, I need to be humble, you know, just those things that, you know, you need from someone else.
I've seen it a lot in your interviews on the Cowboy Channel, and believe in yourself. You're always talking about that and believe that on the social media, and I love it. But you can tell in your confidence in yourself, just the way you even say it, you can tell there's a belief to it. And there's something that I've always noticed also. Begay, I was such a huge fan of Derek Begay when he first came out on the scene. I think it was right around 2006. I think it was him and Victor Eros, and he was riding the paint horse, and he would light him up.
Yeah.
Light him I remember Vernal, that's like, it just, arena record. Next place we go, arena record. And that paint horse was so fast footed, and he would put him the end of it and just, I mean, we were starting to see 3-second run and short 4-second runs, and those in places that was not common. I mean, obviously when you're setting arena records, you know, you're making runs that are uncommon, and he was a little ahead of his era, and just, he had like a warrior mentality. And I remember T. Woolman had that, and there was no backup. There was no fear. Like when they roped, it was almost like they weren't focused on anything wrong. Like they weren't focusing on any of the stuff that could happen. They were focused on what they were going to do. And then Sin and Jenny, watching when he first came up, just light him up and wins the world. And Eric Rogers, just a machine.
Yeah.
Never misses. You know, just never misses. And you have that. And watching you come out here and just that belief system that you have, there's a lot of that. Do you feel like the Navajo Nation, like that belief system, almost like that warrior mentality? Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I think, you know, just being in this atmosphere and kind of, you know, seeing what's out there. And then, you know, you go home and you work on your game, and then, you know, you may lose again when you come back, but if you stick with it and you believe it and you visualize it and you see it, you got to trust it. And that's one thing I think a lot of Native Americans, you know, they have the talent, they have what it takes, but do you believe you can make it? Do you believe that you can be there one day? And it's so hard to find in a lot of people to have that belief. Like, you don't have people who are going to tell you, man, you got to believe it. But that's where this platform comes from. Like, you know, believe it. And I remember, you know, when Derek first came out, like, I remember being at home and like TV, you know, we couldn't show the rodeos, couldn't see them.
Right.
But man, word would get around. Derek did this, Derek did that. Like, and all you would do is hear it, and you couldn't see it though. But you know, he was out here, you know, doing the best he could. And you know, when social media and everything was getting bigger, like I would listen to some of his interviews, and he would be like, you know, I don't have any money, but we've never had money, so what does it matter? You know, so
I remember that interview.
So that's what I, you know, would vibe off of is, man, I ain't scared to lose. I ain't have no money anyway, just like Derek Begay said. So those are just, you know, having that mentality of listening to your peers and, you know, having them have the experience and to really talk real about it. And that's what's going to help the next generation. And that's why I keep saying, man, you got to believe that. If you're going to go out into this world and do the best you can, you got to have a lot of heart.
That was so cool when both of you won San Antonio this year.
Oh,
You and Begay both. That was so cool.
Yeah.
That lit up the platform I think that you two both stand on.
Yeah, I think, you know, just seeing him go from the wild card, and, you know, I'm always
Both of you.
Yeah.
You got to knock Jackie off right there at the end.
Yeah.
Both of you came from the and
Wild
had to
card.
claw your way back in.
Yeah, and you know, I've been, when I was down there, you know, I'd watch the team roping because they were all up in my set, and if they're up in my set, you know, I want to be there, you know, watching and cheering them on.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I watched their set, and then I watched the wild card, and I seen them win the wild card. I'm like, holy smokes, I think it's my time now. So, like, you know, that belief
Feed off of it.
Yeah, that belief system freaking kicked in right then and there that day. And when I went 1-6, I'm like, holy smokes. And then later on that day, I went up there early to go watch the team rope and see he was going to win it. And he goes and wins it. I'm like, like that just lit even more fire into me. Like, man, my belief system went up, and I believe that I was going to do what Derek Begay did.
Yeah.
And it worked out. And, just watching him do it and, seeing it, I visualize myself doing the same thing. So
there's a lot to that. There was, I've read about one time where a guy that got shot down in Vietnam, and I can't remember the exact details of the story, but he loved golf, loved playing golf. He played 18 holes of golf all the time, and he never could shoot par.
Yeah.
And then they said he got shot down in Vietnam, and I think he was a prisoner of war for 7 years. And they said that he played 18 holes of golf in his head. He said one of the things that kept him alive was every day he would just play 18 holes of golf in his head, and visualize us playing golf. And they said when he finally got rescued and came back home, one of the first things he wanted to go do when he was able to go do stuff was he wanted to go play 18 holes of golf.
Yeah.
And they said the first day he went and played 18 holes of golf was the first time he ever shot par. And all of his buddies were like, man, this doesn't make any sense. Like, how in the heck did you do that? You ain't played golf in forever.
Yeah.
He said, well, I guess the only thing I can say is I ain't missed a shot in 7 years. and he credited it to the amount of focus on visualizing the run that you're wanting to make. And they say that there's so much to that where it helps develop a lot of muscle memory and visualizing the runs that you're wanting to make.
Yeah.
And you have that.
Yeah. And that's just going back and watching your videos, just having, like, that's what I do is, like, I'll sit there and, I'll watch my videos over and over and over, and I'll try to remember, like, this is what I need to do. This is what's going to help me, like, on my next run. And so when I was there at San Antonio, I missed the first one. I won one round, and then I missed the second one or third one. I'm like, man, like, I was kind of like, man, I was kind of a little bummed out. But then again, my traveling partner had freaking swept the floor over there. And, I was like, I'm happy for her. So let's not be dragging us both down. Let's, keep it going. So when I end up going back down there 2 days later, like, I just looked at my 1-6. I was 1-6 in that one round and won it. I was like, man, if I'm 1-6, I said, I think I could be probably faster if I got a longer rope out and tried to use my rope a little more. And, sure enough, like, at San Antonio, it felt way closer than it did at Austin. But, at San Antonio, I was just shooting for first, trying to get back in the game and just believing in myself and believing in my rope and my horse and, visualizing that, I could be 1-6 every single time if I just do the right things. And sure enough, I was 1-6 3 times and made me a San Antonio champ.
And one of the things I think that's hard being a gunslinger like you are, you're going to miss.
Yeah.
When you're going and taking those hard shots time and time again, like, you're going to miss. What do you think that it is that helps you keep getting that confidence, knowing that, all right, I'm only one more run away, or whatever it is? How do you keep that confidence when a guy or a girl will go through a dry spell because you're always going for first? How do you keep yourself pumped up or in the game?
I think having that fear of not winning or losing, because that's the one thing that I've learned is that no matter if we're going to win or lose, we're all going to be at the next jackpot, rodeo, whatever, the next day. And I think just having that mentality, like, I want to win first, but then again, sometimes it's good to win second or third or fourth or fifth, but it doesn't really put a lot of pressure on me to go and to swing and let it go.
Yeah.
I go with the feel, and I'm just a person that's tried to be laid back, very simple. Just go and, do what you know, because the more you think about it, like, man, like, the more things you put into place, it's harder, but if you just let it fall into place and, watch it and try to visualize how's the best way you can do it, I think that's kind of how I like to be.
That's big. That's real big because, one of my probably biggest, I would say, hindrances in my career that took me so long, I think, to develop was how much I was trying to make it happen. I was trying to force it to happen. because I needed it to happen. And when I learned to start letting it happen, it was amazing how you could feel what you were doing.
Yeah.
You could see what you were doing. There's a lot to that. And
Yeah.
that is really good where if you're able to keep it simple and let it happen. Easy to say, hard to do, but you believe it. Like I can tell, like you believe it because it looks natural for you. It looks like you've let it happen. There's a lot to that.
Yeah. And that's the way I, go about it. I mean, I got so many stories like when we were up there and I think it was Washington. And Jackie asked me, she's like, hey, will you take me to go practice a few runs? And we were at Hermingston and we went over to that calf roper.
Brad Goodrich?
Yes, we went over to his house. And I'm sitting there, running cattle up, working the box. And I can't remember which one it was, either her or Brad. And he's like, you're not going to roam? And I was like, no. And I said, just like you said, keep it simple. Because he was out there, you got to keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, too, just hearing what he had to say and, just listening to other people, what they had to say in their careers, like that's where I feed off of. Like I feed off of people who've been there, done that. And that's the one thing I like to hang around Jackie. She's been there, done that, and she has a lot of good advice. So just, listening to people like that. Yeah.
What, when you were growing up and starting to come out here and getting your card and starting to kind of take it to that next level in the breakaway, was there anyone that you studied? Where did you start? Where did breakaway going in your life? I think from when you started out as a team roper, when did breakaway and start coming into your passion? Did you feel like, and who did you study?
I think when I was in college, when I started breakaway roping, like I started breakaway roping in college, and I had no intention of being a breakaway roper, but my coach, she was like, you need a breakaway rope. I'm like, I don't have a horse. And she's like, no, it's easy. Like, you just need to start mounting up and get the feel of it. So, when I started breakaway roping, it was hard at first. And then I started watching my friends on how, they handle the rope, how it was easier for a horse to go from the corner of the box to the pin, and like just studying how they were, roping. Nicole Baggerly, she was a phenomenal breakaway roper in college. Macy Young was a phenomenal roper in college, and I went to college with them. They were in my timeline. And
what college you go to, and what was South?
What
region?
I went to Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
that's my region then too.
Yeah. And
what college you go to?
I went to Dannett College. Went there for.
Where was that at?
In Saley.
Okay.
Yep, it's in Arizona. It's on the reservation, and I went to college out there for a few years, and college rodeo with them, and those were the people I studied. Bailey Bates was in there, Cassidy Dennison was in there. Cassidy was one of my good friends, and I just she was I'm gonna say probably 4-time international finals, all around winner, and had so much success in the breakaway world and bell racing world growing up. So, being around those people, they kind of pushed me to understand breakaway a little more. And then once I left college and I had to get a job, so I, was working 8 to 5 every day. And every evening I'd go home and, just break away the dummy, get used to it. And after a while, I kind of just had to learn the horsemanship side of it, like how I can get a horse to, get to where I need. And then, once I started in 2018, I think it was 2018, I bought my WPRA card, and, I went to the BFI, and I started watching the breakaway rope in there, and I would, study like Larry D and Jackie and, all the top names. And one of my cousin sisters is Debbie Robbins, and she is like a WPRA world champion like 4 times back in her day. So, just being around her, and, we would come back from Reno and I'd be like, man, did you see this person's horse? Like, man, that horse is phenomenal. Just seeing it and watching them, growing up when I was not really a breakaway roper, but I was part-time. It kind of just, watching everyone, just seeing how they rope, and it helped me, gave me like, man, I bet I could do it now. Like after my dad left, he passed away from cancer. Like my goal was to make him proud and to make because he kept telling me, you can make the INFR. You can make the international finals. And I'm like, all right, but I'm not ready for it yet, and back then I wasn't ready when he was around. But once he left, I said, man, I'm going to do it now. I'm going to go breakaway rope, and I'm going to make the Indian finals like he wanted me to. And I stuck with it. And here, about 8-10 years later, here I am making the NFR in the breakaway. And, that's something that, I've had a lot of help, my family, my grandparents that live in Gilbert, they've, like, when I lost my dad, my grandma, Frida Alex, she knew I was lost, and she knew that, I was going through trauma with my dad and not having the support system that I had. And, she picked me back up and told me, like, you know what, you have the ability to be who you want to be. And I think you should go and chase it. So, I really didn't have someone that I watched all the time, but I watched everyone, like growing up on, watching the NFR when the calf ropers were in there, just seeing that, and Trevor Brazil, seeing him be a calf roper, and all the great people that, rope good and use their horse good at the NFRs when we'd watch at home, so pretty much everybody. Like, I watched a lot of people just, kind of fed off of what they were doing, and to this day, I'm still doing it. Just watching everybody, seeing who's like Sarah, Sarah has a unique style, and here I am saying Sarah just so I can learn more,
How cool is that to kind of have a sparring partner? Because you and Sarah Angelone's created a great relationship. I watched one of them interviews where you two were talking about the NFR, and I think you broke your belt buckle or something like that. And man, you guys look like you get along good, and you guys feed off each other. What does that relationship kind of felt like it's done for your competition, and also kind of taking away the boredom out of rodeo?
I think, just understanding, like, the best thing you can do is understand a person. And if you really care about the person, you're going to try to understand their way. And that's the one thing that, her and I have tried to understand one another, to get better and to learn how to use your horsepower, learn how to use your rope. And I mean, she, we went to, talking about horsepower, we went to talking about rope length, how, the difference of using the timing of the horse and stuff like that. It just, our relationship has grown so much because we're willing to learn about it and not just be stuck in our one way, and to just grow on it, and that's one thing that I've always tried to do, is to go and learn someone's way. And if it don't work, it don't work.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a strong point too, is, they say opposites attract. And I think they do if both people are open-minded, because Sarah's horsemanship is really, really good. That girl's a hell of a jockey and rides some dang nice horses, and seems very, very passionate about the horses and the fraternities. I've heard she's even good on the head side, like at the fraternities and stuff like that in the head. And where you come with the rope, I think that's so cool, where you guys, it looks like you two feed off each other real well, where you're trying to learn one another's style, because there's a lot you can learn from the opposite, and a little bit more about how one might leave off their hand, or, how you can get the timing with your rope to get ahead of it. And that's how, I think that's where, breakaway is going to get so fast. I think in the next little bit, people will be watching you and dissecting what you're doing. And because you and Sarah, it's cool because you guys both will spar off each other, because you guys have tied arena records, you've tied go rounds. You guys have two separate styles, but you're both fast. Yeah. And it's been fun to watch. It's been real fun to watch.
Yeah. And I think it's just being open-minded and understanding each other and trusting the process of what you're learning there. And
Sarah makes me laugh too, because I always hear Jackie and Cheyenne talking about her all the time, because I said, well, looks like Sarah had a good winter. Is she going to quit? I said, yep, she's not going to Reno. And then I hear Martha enter. Yep, I guess she's going to Reno. But she's only going till Vernal. And then she's going home. Yeah. And then she stays after Vernal. And I told Jackie, I said, then she made the NFR. So I guess she's going to go to Vegas. Yeah. And I said, to me, it almost seems a little bit in the fact of she don't almost care if she goes home or not. Yeah. So there's not real any pressure she's putting on herself. And she's just, if I win, I'm great. But I'm okay with going home. Yeah. And it almost looks like there's she's able to rope because she's free of pressure because she's fine with going home.
Yeah. And that's the one thing, like this year, she's already given me a different aspect of what's going to go. I'm not putting too much pressure on myself. Like she told me the other day, don't be looking at that world standings anymore. Forget about it. And I said, okay. But here's Jackie, sending me messages.
I'm getting my red dot out.
Yeah. Like, man, I told Sarah, I said, I got that red dot on Jackie right now. It ain't coming off until, someone gets ahead of me. Then it might have 2 red dots on them.
I remember me and Duke and Kelly were going to a rodeo one time, and someone said that, where you at in standings? Where you at? I don't know. And Dugan says, if you don't know, that means you ain't winning. Because if you don't know, you don't care. But Sarah brings it another way because it can also get in your head, too, if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember Walt Woodard said one time, he said, when I was looking at the world standings, I was always looking at who was ahead of me. Because that's who I was aiming at.
Yeah.
Just like we were talking about the red dot.
Yeah.
And then some guys, and I've gotten to on that track too, where I've looked at it the wrong way. I started looking like, oh my gosh, some guys are getting closer, or, and you got to be real. That's the wrong mentality. I loved what Walt Woodard said. Yeah, I'm always aiming up. I'm always looking up. I'm aiming for those guys.
Yeah.
And I think a guy can use the standings in a good way because if you use it the right way.
Yeah.
But boy, if you're looking behind you, you'll tighten up real fast.
Yeah. Don't even look behind you. Don't even look behind you.
Yeah. I love it.
That's kind of how it's going.
I love it. Well, D-Lo, man, thanks for coming on here. It was fun to get to know you better and just learn it's fun to watch you. Golly, like you're changing the game. There's gonna be so many girls now with gloves and measuring the ropes out at 24 feet and slinging it. And I know there's a whole nation that's proud of you, and I'm proud of you. And number 3 is pretty much going to be under your belt.
Yeah.
It looks like you're not too far from it, man. Having a great year.
Yeah.
It's been fun to watch.
Yeah, it's been exciting, and I'm excited to see where the summer goes, and how the pieces fall, and we all have that one goal. So
I tell you, another thing that's going to be exciting too is I forgot to kind of talk about this as well. Was you guys have a big finals coming up that does nothing to do with the NFR. You guys have a Kimes Ranch finals coming up.
Yeah.
In Arizona, your home state. How fun is that going to be?
That's going to be awesome. I'm excited for that roping. I mean, it's almost pretty much in my backyard. So
talk about that finals Kimes Ranch came out with. Maybe a couple weeks ago.
They came out with that $1 million pay. And I mean, that sucker is going to pay good. And that's phenomenal, to have, Kimes give us that support and open the door for the breakaway ropers. And, it helps us in so much ways, just advertisement and financially and, just being a groundbreaker for us. That I'm excited for that roping, and it's going to be fun. And there's so many ways you can qualify. They say there's another way you can get in. And then, that I think it's going to be good for us, and to have that, see who's going to be, walking away with that big payday. So
what I love about what Kimes Ranch did was they seen an opportunity and they invested wisely in it, because they're going to be, in my opinion, from here on out, the one of the main drives that's going to drive breakaway to that level it should have been.
Yeah.
And they stepped up and did it. And I think that was great wisdom on their part. But did I hear it right to where you can get qualified in a lot of different ways? They're taking, I think, 25 to that final. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I think the top 10 will be seated in there.
Yeah.
And then I think 11th through 15th was going to the semifinals.
Yeah.
But then the rest of them can come in any different way. And then also here, right, there's no age limit.
No age limit.
So anyone can qualify.
Yeah. So that'll be exciting to see.
That's going to be exciting. And you're going at 10 rounds.
Yep.
And it's going to pay the same as the NFR.
Yep. That's crazy, huh?
Hank.
I know, it's exciting.
Cool. That's exciting.
I know. They
good for Kimes Ranch.
Yeah, it's like, we can do it. Why can't you?
Yeah.
So that's a big statement right there. And, that's all we want to do is see the breakaway ropers in the Thomas and Mack, and it's going to be exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, man. It's going to, to me, I'm really, really, really excited to see what that buzz that Kimes Ranch is going to create. Is that going to add any more pressure to get it in that yellow arena?
Yeah.
Because they kind of stole the thunder. They had there's a window there where if that could have got there, that would have been historic to get in that yellow arena. Well, they just went ahead and, well, I'll tell you what, if you're not going to do it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
So I like that mentality.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Man, financially, that's going to be so great for y'all.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the hardest things is, hey, your rodeos have gotten better.
Yes.
As far as that, like you guys are making a little bit more, you're able to make a living. And what I always say is making a living is the fact that, you can pay your bills, you can pay, if you're winning, you're able to pay your bills, able to pay your fuel, pay your fees. Sponsors are going to come along with that. You're going to make a living, but making money is tough because making money is like where you win enough to where you can buy a horse. Winning money is like where you can buy a truck, trailer, land, things like that. Well, the NFR for what y'all had really just kind of keeps you floating your bills.
Yeah.
And don't disinclude vet bills.
Yeah.
Vet bills have been stacking up. It seems like in this event too, because I've been watching it with Jackie, but now to have it to where $30,000 rounds, 10 of them.
That is gonna
and
be
a $70,000 average.
Yeah. Yeah.
That could be. That's where the girls are going to be able to start making money.
Yeah.
That's
and
going to be huge.
Make it even better. It's on the way to NFR.
I think that's going to be a big step to get it there. I really do. My feel is.
Yeah.
And that would be even awesome.
Yeah.
That'd be really awesome.
I'm excited for that one coming up.
Bright future.
Yep. Bright future it is.
D-Lo, thanks for coming on.
Yep.
Do good this year. Be rooting for you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. And, I enjoy listening to your podcast. So you're doing a good job. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. How do we follow you? Everything on social media?
Yep. Everything on Danielle Lowman, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice. Awesome. Do good.
Thank you.